Hi, everybody, and welcome back. My name's Melissa, and this year I'm sharing 365 tips for frugal living. Sorry, I'm going to try and talk over the train because I have waited through like three trains. They keep coming up when I'm filming. So I'm like, I just waited for one to finish. It finished. I was like, oh, great, I'll start. And then another one came. So I'm going to try and talk over the train. Okay, today's tip for frugal living is to start trying to shop local, even if it's a little more expensive. And here's why. We all know the story of Walmart and how they went to all those little towns and they um, shuttered local businesses and became the only store and then raised their prices. I'm sure you've seen Dollar General. I can't remember whether it was Half as Interesting or Wendover. I know it was Sam's Voice. Did a thing on Dollar General and how they do the same thing. Like, you can be in a town with nothing and there's a Dollar General. And they would go in, and then the local grocers who did sell things like produce could no longer afford to stay open because people were only going for the things like the produce, and it wasn't profitable anymore. So I've been thinking a lot. I have a teenager. I feel like not that long ago I was a teenager. And I was not a teen mom, so I was what would be considered an older mom. But I started thinking about the ups and downs of how people got their start. I am a Gen X / a Zennial. So we kind of got the rug pulled out from under us with the housing crisis. Like right when we were starting to, you know, get our groove and get there, graduating from college or, make that right step in our career. Heck, I was a lone originator during the housing crisis. And no, I wasn't like one of those unethical people who caused it. I'd only gotten the job a few months earlier. Um, I was actually trying to help people out of that. But yeah, it's not a great thing to be during a housing crisis when, everybody's getting foreclosed on. But lots of demotions and layoffs and everything. It was tough. And then, a few years later, kids that were 10, 10 to 12 years younger than us, I guess those that were older us, they were like 15-ish years younger than them, graduated from college and came out making more than their Gen X counterparts in many cases. And it was tough. I mean, Gen X, we came out the gate. We just worked multiple jobs. It was really common. Um, I know, like, boomers had the paper routes, and I know they collected bottles as kids because my parents are boomers, so I heard those stories. I know one guy who literally sold pencils on the corner. He actually ended up being a millionaire. He was like a really motivated child. He grew up dirt poor, and he would collect pencils, like free pencils from different places, and then sell them for like a penny or two, and then just like save all of that money. He ended up making a ton of money, and then not just from pencils, but like, from the time he was like 6 or 7, he was working. But I don't know if that's necessarily true of the boomer experience. I just know a few of them. So if you are a boomer and you also were a paper boy or babysat or were working from, the age of 10 to 12 doing side jobs. And I'm not talking about chores for your parents. I'm talking about like for other people, mowing lawns, whatever. Let me know in the comments below, because I know Gen X, we did all of that. And then a lot of us got our first job with like a W-2 at 14 or 15. I was 15. And it was a summer job. There were too many regulations around school. So, and my mom said she didn't want to have to deal with driving me to work because I went to a Catholic high school, and she had to drive me there in the morning and then pick me up in the afternoon, and then driving me to work was just such a hassle. So, it was back to the whole babysitting kind of a thing. And then summer, then I turned 16, and that summer I got a job, and I pretty much worked jobs ever since. And then I was college in a job or multiple jobs, 2, 3 jobs at the same time. Not like these people nowadays who are literally working the job, like 3 jobs simultaneously, like in the same hour. Those people are smart. They got it figured out. We were sitting there, working 2 or 3 jobs at different hours. These people are like, oh, yep, 40 hours, 3 jobs. We would be sitting there taking 120 hours to do it. Nope. They do it all in the same 40. Just brilliant. I'm telling you, brilliant people. God, I wish I had figured that out. But yeah, so constantly we were working multiple jobs. Unions started to disappear. And I mean, my grandparents and great grandparents fought so hard for, like, my grandfather's uncles actually really fought to form the Teamsters Union. And they owned trucking companies and chose to fight for that because they were raised by a man who really believed everybody deserved a fair shake. My grandfather's grandfather was like an anti-racist when it wasn't cool to be an anti-racist. He just always kind of like valued human life, even human lives that society didn't value. So that's kind of like the mentality they were raised with. And so they fought for everybody to have rights. They fought for workers' rights and union rights and minority rights and everything. My grandpa was actually pretty feminist in nature. Like, he treated my grandma like a princess. Like, that woman never, ever, ever put gas in her car. Like, literally, he did it every week. And, she didn't even know how to put gas in her car. And I mean, she had a job and she did all sorts of things. But that was just kind of a thing that he did. Like, that was a guy's thing to do, I guess. Like, how he took care of her. But he'd cook and clean and stuff. So it was, I don't know. But, that generation, they fought so hard. And so, like, my grandpa's grandpa and, his parents' generation, his generation, and they all fought for all of this. And then we just all kind of watched it fall apart. And I kept saying, we've got to support unions and we can't do this and we can't do that. But I didn't. I complained about it, but I really didn't do anything to fix the problem. I mean, I remember Steve and Barry's. So Steve and Barry's was the store in the mall, and you get like t-shirts for $5. You could get jeans for $5, and they were actually pretty well-fitting jeans. Sweatshirts, $5. Sneakers, $5. Everything at Steve and Barry's was $5. Little did we know, we were supporting fast fashion. But at that point, there was like this whole thing with like Martha Stewart, and no, I think hers was actually like Collusion or something. I can't remember, but like it was Kathy Lee Gifford. I don't know, some celebrity, and like the whole sweatshop and all that. So like we thought that, I don't know, somehow in our brain we thought this was different, like that she was just taking advantage of workers and yada, yada, yada. And like, they had us convinced that they weren't taking advantage of workers and they were just giving us a great deal. And honestly, the quality at Steve & Barry's so much better than the quality at Shein or Temu or any of that, just as an FYI. But it's, I bought fast fashion. I mean, heck, even now, I'm in pajamas from Walmart. And as much as I despise Walmart, I needed pajamas, and I had multiple choices. I could either order online, and if they got here and they didn't fit right, I'd have to return them. They didn't feel right, I'd have to return them. And then that just like ends up in a landfill. I could go to Meijer. I tried that. Didn't like any of the pajamas. Target, same thing. I eventually was like, you know what, I know. I think all the pajamas I've pretty much gotten for the past like 2 to 3 decades have been at Walmart. I don't know why. But it just is what it is. So we could have made a different choice there. And this is not a like must buy American thing even. It's a, we all chose to support the corporations. We say we boycott and then we don't. And honestly, the boycotts right now, they are giving me whiplash. Don't go here, don't go there, don't go do. But at some point, like, now we've gotten ourselves in a situation where no matter where we go, it's corporate. Whole Foods, Amazon. Amazon Fresh is again Amazon. Amazon itself is Amazon. Walmart, Sam's Club, Target. Meijer is also a corporation, though it's a smaller corporation. Grocery stores. You've got Jewel, Albertsons, Safeway. They're all together. Kroger has got, in my area, they've got Kroger, Mariano's, and Food for Less. All the little guys are gone. We all collectively let them die. And for what? So I do, we have Tony's, which Tony's has multiple locations. So it's kind of a corporation, but It's like a locally owned, as far as I know, it's locally owned. It's not part of a huge conglomerate. There's trying to think. Tony's and Burkhart's are two like chains in the area that are locally, like more locally owned. And then we've got some independent grocers too. You know what? I think there's another one. There's another one too, and I can't think of the name of it, but I think they're actually, I think they also have multiple locations. But when you support the little guy, you support the community. When you go to Pizza Hut, you're supporting a corporation. When you go to the guy selling pizza down the street, you're going to the guy who donates to the Little League. You're going to the guy whose kid is going to be in the school play. You're going to the guy who, when you need pizza for your event, your your church bazaar or whatever, I can't think of whatever, he's going to give you a discount because you're getting so many. Like a good discount. Or donate. He's the guy in your community who's part of the community. And if we want these people to still be around and this to still be an option for our kids, we have to start doing it. Because corporations and private equity have their hands in everything. And so we're going to have to figure out a way as a society to cut them off so that we can save money, because the more control they have, why do you think rent prices are so high? Because you got, I think it's 30% of all rentals are owned by corporations or private equity. And they're expecting like 60% by 2030. So 5 years from now. And I don't know if this is worldwide or just in America. But they control the rent market. And I understand if you're a landlord, there's expenses, but dude, cut the rent, find a good tenant, and let them stay. My parents were landlords, and they rarely raised the rent on their tenants. Rarely. If they raised the rent, it's either A, because you had been there so long and they needed to accommodate for like things like raises and taxes and stuff, or you were an absolutely horrible tenant and they wanted you out, so they put it out of your income bracket or whatever. But if you are a landlord, give some local person a deal. I'm not saying you have to go broke, but dude, you don't need to be making, $600, $700, $800 per unit profit. Like, and the next time you want to go out to eat, try and find a local restaurant. Though that's getting harder. I went to apply for a job as like a bartender / server, and all the local restaurants have been bought up and they're under like little restaurant groups. And so you think you're going to this like local independently owned restaurant, but in reality, it all just falls under, these like 10 local restaurants that are completely different and very unique in their, they've just been bought by this conglomerate, and that's who they belong to. So find, if you're going to go out to eat, find a local restaurant. We need to, if we want to win against the corporations, we have to start making those sacrifices. We need to start, because sometimes being frugal isn't about saving in the now. It's about saving overall. We didn't learn our lesson from Walmart. We didn't learn our lesson in 2008. Heck, I'm in my 40s. At some point, I should have learned. I don't care if I was like one of the ones who had the rug pulled out from under me. I mean, I still screwed up. And so now we have to own our choices. We have to say that, yeah, society sucks, and we were doing the best we could, but they kept us struggling for so long and trying to stay afloat for so long and just trying to get by, that we missed what they were really doing. What they were doing is taking away choice, taking away competition. And if you don't have competition, you can set the prices wherever you want. You know why my grocery prices are so stinking cheap? Competition. We have Meijer. We have Food for Less, Mariano's, and Kroger, which are obviously, all one but three different entities. Think of like Food for Less as the discount, Kroger is the basic, Mariano's is the fancy. We have Tony's, we have Burkhart's, we have Jewel, which is a Safeway Albertson brand. We have, I'm trying to think what else we have. Walmart, Target, Super Walmart, numerous independent grocers scattered throughout, Aldi, Whole Foods, Amazon Fresh. Actually, Chicagoland was like one of the few places our suburbs got 2 Amazon Freshes when they first premiered around like 2019, 2020. There was like 10 Amazon Freshes and 2 of them were in the Chicago suburbs. But my grocery prices are cheaper because since there's so many stores and so much competition, they have to stay cheap. They have to stay competitive or people will stop going there. And I talk to other people and they don't have as much. I mean, I remember when I lived in Florida, we had Publix. We had lots of Publix. We had one Winn-Dixie in Cape Coral and one in, I think, North Fort Myers. We had, trying to think, not Fresh Time, that's in Joliet. It's another store we have, near me. There was like, I don't know, a Fresh Market or something like that. But in Fort Myers, but you had to drive, like we had to drive across the bridge to get to Fort Myers for like 2 or 3 of the stores. We had to drive all the way to Naples, 45 to an hour and a half away, depending on season and traffic, to get to Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. We had to drive to, but we had, like I said, the Winn-Dixie, a bunch of Publix. We did have Walmart and Walmart Markets, a Target, and maybe a Super Target too on the north side. And then towards the time I moved, we had one local grocer come in, and then since I'd moved, they had another local grocer come in. But it's a big town, and they do not have nearly the competition that we do. They just don't, because 10 Publix isn't competition. That's just 10 locations. So if you have 10 Publix and 10 Walmart, you have 2 stores. That's not competition. So we need to start doing things to encourage competition. We screwed up. Now we got to own it. We got to fix it for our kids. It's not fair to leave it like this. It's not fair to leave them our mess. And I get it, we're all struggling. That doesn't mean they need to inherit a mess. We need to figure it out. And I think the only way we're going to have a future for them to be frugal in is to increase competition. So go to your local farmers market. Go to your local grocer. Shop local. Let's increase that competition and see if we can drive some of those corporate prices down. Anyways, again, my name is Melissa, and this year I'm sharing 365 tips for frugal living. If you want to hear more, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.